Alexander Marks, True Addicts play this slate. They absolutely do. It is time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock show presented by Yahoo. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to all of you. This is a little bit of a prequel. This is the thing that we do leading up to the big game. It is called Playing NBA DFS. Two gamer we have ahead of us here, and the guy who's going to help us break it all down here on this lovely, lovely Sunday. My friend, the volleyball champion of the world, my New York Mets loving. I was going to say the double time. Ooh, I didn't know we had the entire ensemble.
This is what they call a New York Mets tuxedo.
It's got to have I believe to complete the outfit, you have to have a garbage bag, but whatever. At Matt LaMarca, go follow him on Twitter. I'm at Eric Lindquist. I always respect another person who just has the handle of their name. Makes my life so much easier. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing well. Coming off a, dare I say, inspired call of Joel Embiid last night.
3%.
Saw some people shouting
3%.
me out on Twitter for that. I appreciate the love. Lord knows I'm wrong all the time, so it's nice to get stuff right every once in a while.
Well, there's times when even a dumb New York Mets fan squirrel finds an acorn.
Is it a squirrel, a raccoon, a rat?
It's definitely a rat. Let's be serious. Yoenis Cespedes, that worked well. That went well. No, we're not going to go there. Hit the like button, everybody. We're going to get started. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I'm ready to rock here. It's a two-gamer. I think we can kind of set the table here before we lead into the analysis. We have Atlanta and Boston starting up here, 11 o'clock on the West Coast, 2 o'clock for you people who have actual times on the East Coast there, and then 3 o'clock, Minnesota and Indiana. That second game carries a 237.5 total. I will say Atlanta and Boston, 223.5 total. It's not so bad itself. I'm going to say that it's an all right spot, it looks like, but I'm very fascinated by this slate. I always ask this to Greg, but I don't even know if it's applicable for me. It's probably more to do with the starting lineup. But what piece of news are you waiting for that's going to dictate what you do with your lineups the most, Matt LaMarca?
Yeah, I mean, the early game, luckily, we don't have a ton going on. You've got Trae Young is probable, so you're expecting him. And then really for the Celtics, the only thing we're waiting for is Daniel Tice going to be available after being traded. The second game is the more significant one. We've got Anthony Edwards questionable. And I would say the biggest piece of news for me, as it's been for much of the past month, is Malcolm Brogdon questionable. If Malcolm Brogdon is out, the Pacers become like a team that you need to have a lot of exposure to, in my opinion. They're a team that you should have exposure to anyway on a two-game slate. But, all the top guys for the Pacers would see a sizable boost if Brogdon is out.
Yeah, and not only that, Anthony Edwards. So we've got two pieces of late news with nothing on the front end. I mean, for me, considering the total of that game too, we're talking about it being substantially better than the 223.5. Once again, we want to mix and match pieces. You kind of have to. It's a two-game slate, and you have to play players from both sides. But hard not to really like Minnesota, Indiana, regardless of how those two players end up status-wise. I think some of the new acquisitions have a pretty safe place in the rotation in the likes of Buddy Hield and the likes of Tyrese Halliburton. It doesn't really matter what you're looking at here in terms of Malcolm Brogdon being in or out to really affect their minutes so much. I think Buddy Hield's still going to play a large allotment of minutes. I would be surprised if Malcolm Brogdon played. I think that's kind of the way that I felt for the last couple of weeks. But Anthony Edwards, we've seen this movie before for sure. We're waiting on Timberwolves news, but both of those pieces of news going to matter a lot. Let's get to it. We go position by position here. I guess we could go game by game, but I think it's a little bit more intriguing to start here. I just talked about those evening games, and the two guys who are probably impacted the most from a fantasy perspective, if the aforementioned Brogdon and the aforementioned Edwards end up playing, would be Tyrese Halliburton and D'Angelo Russell. They are 1-2 right now in terms of rostership over on DraftKings. Who do you prefer more for your builds today?
I will lean towards Mr. Halliburton. He played well in his Pacers debut. Not the greatest fantasy day, but he was super efficient scoring the ball. He was 60% from the field. I think the upside is clearly there with him to improve upon his fantasy production from his time with the Kings. If you look at how he sort of operated in Sacramento in games without De'Aaron Fox. He was averaging over 40 DraftKings points per game. I think that's the type of production we can expect from him in Indiana, at least for as long as Malcolm Brogdon is sidelined. So I like Halliburton right now. Again, he played 39 plus minutes in their last game. I think he could approach that threshold again. And if he does, it would not shock me if he ended up being the highest scoring guard on this slate.
I'm with you. I love Tyrese Halliburton today. I will say $1,100 can go a long way to help your builds out with Russell. Russell impacted, I think, a little bit less. If you get Brogdon in there, I'm going to comp it a little bit to the situation we had for him with De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento, but at the same time, D'Angelo Russell will be a little bit less unaffected. We've seen some upside, some ceiling from him, regardless of Edwards' status here in some of these spots, and just cheaper. I think I'm more inclined to fire that up on DraftKings as a result of that, but I like Halliburton more just in terms of raw fantasy points. And right now, if you have no Brogdon, I'm definitely going to be firing that up as well. I have to say that even though I do believe that Brogdon isn't going to play here in this spot, but there's one guard that you have to pay up for that kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into this slate, I think. I'm only playing one lineup on DraftKings. I'm playing a lot more over on FanDuel. And so for me, it's really a talking point more so. Well, I guess it's kind of similar to both sides. We have 9,900 for Trae Young on FanDuel. We have 9K, I believe, or what was his number? 9,800. So there you go. Over on DK, that's a lot different than 8,200 and 7K. But on FanDuel, 9,900, 9K for Halliburton and 8,200 for Russell. They're pretty stacked there up top, and you kind of have to make some tough decisions. How do you feel about Trae Young on this slate?
Yeah, I could talk myself into Trae Young if it was a situation where paying up for him is going to be contrarian. But the way we have this set up right now is his ownership is pretty comparable to Halliburton and to D'Angelo Russell. So with that in mind, for me, Trae Young is someone you want to be underweight on. I don't know if you necessarily want to full fade him, but this matchup versus the Celtics is really tough. They are the second best team in the league in terms of defensive efficiency, and they're 24th in pace. So I feel like Trae Young at 9,800, it's not really like we're getting him at a discount in this matchup. I think that just comparing him to the other top guards on this slate, he doesn't do it for me.
All righty. I look at that. We've got two things. We've got two greats here at Awesemo.com hanging out in the chat. We've got Loco, who just dropped some news that actually matters to me because I was projecting Daniel Tice to play today. That's going to impact a little bit of this front court, going to give a slight bump and tick up for Al Horford, Robert Williams here, because apparently that trade is still pending there. But thank you to Loco there. He'll be keeping you guys informed if anything crazy is happening for the Super Bowl. I'm assuming CJ Uzoma is going to play here. We all know now that Tyler Higbee is going to be out for this one. So it's going to be less of a news-filled day, hopefully. Fingers crossed on that, but appreciate you looking out there, Loco. And then Pete the Heat, coming off of yesterday. The guy could not have been more spot on. Got to catch a little bit of that show yesterday. I built a lot of lineups for MMA. Was profitable. It was nice. It was my first MMA slate that I really kind of focused on for the entire year. And it was nice to be profitable. Could have been really profitable had Brunson pulled off the upset there, but he was winning that fight the whole way. That was a brutal result for me, both from a sports betting perspective and from a DFS perspective. But my God, that guy was absolutely all over the card yesterday. Hopefully you guys were able to benefit and profit. I needed more Bobby Green, even though I had, right at the field. I just, that whole 8,400, 8,600 range yesterday on MMA. That's all I will say about that. You were wondering how we're going to fill up an hour of the show. That's how we're going to do it. I'm going to talk about MMA for 5 minutes here. How about that?
Not bad. Would you say, though, to shout out our boy Loco, that you're in love with the Loco?
Okay.
Got it.
Song counter. Can we get a song counter in the corner? That's one. Eric Lindquist and Matt LaMarca song time. We've got the Teletubbies over here. We're hanging out here on this lovely Sunday. Well, morning for me, afternoon for a lot of y'all. But appreciate, we got Pete the Heat doing work. We got Loco. Loco did not like that. I'm just going to say, we got a lot of dots. Usually that means bad things, but let's keep it going here with guard.
Don't speak.
I know just what you're saying. You said no doubt.
There's two.
Check. Keeping it moving here, boys. We've got, so we covered kind of the three main studs that you have to pay up for at guard, but there becomes some fascinating ancillary options. Anthony Edwards, his availability right now, you're getting a discount in ownership coming off of guys like Halliburton and Russell there on DraftKings, almost half the of the rostership. I currently have him projected in. Awesemo does as well. Right around 34 minutes here for Anthony Edwards. I guess guard, small forward. He has a lot of utility where you can play him in 5 different spots. Again, this is just a 2-game slate, though. I'm not really focused on that. I'm focused on having the best lineups possible. And if he's going to be a low-owned piece, it's a dude coming off of 52 fantasy points in 37 minutes against Chicago. Just fine firing him up above the field. If I were playing more lineups over on DK. On FanDuel, I'm looking at him being kind of a core piece for me currently at his rostership. He's 7,700, which is cheaper, $500 cheaper than D'Angelo Russell. They're coming in around the exact same rostership. Just give me Anthony Edwards every time for the discount. What do you think about him on this slate?
Yeah, I think he's a very nice option. The questionable tag, obviously we have to monitor it, but the Timberwolves have been routinely listing a lot of their players as questionable, and they all seem to suit up virtually every slate. So I'm with you. I'm leaning towards him being in the lineup, being a full go. You know, he was questionable heading into his last game. He played 37 minutes and scored 52 points. So I think if we're going to get an ownership discount because of the questionable tag, we should certainly take it.
You have to. It's a 2-game slate. There's not many spots where you're going to find a crazy amount of leverage. You're going to be rostering a lot of these guys if you're making, double-digit lineups whatsoever. It's just going to be what naturally happens here. I'm kind of adjusting some things in the event. So in the event that you don't get it, I think there's going to be enough swappability, mainly because I'm going to be primarily, like everybody else, more inclined to roster a lot of guys from Minnesota, Indiana. If there's no Brogdon, no Edwards, you have every roster spot available to you. It's going to be an amazing spot to be in. We'll put it that way. But the one guy from the early game that I'm having a tough time figuring out what I want to do with is Marcus Smart. He's been playing very prominent minutes here, 39 there against Denver. They absolutely ran Brooklyn off the floor like most people are right now. Played only 28 minutes, but performed admirably there. With Derek White in the mix, I got to be thinking it's going to affect him primarily going forward. But coming off of this last game, 39 minutes, am I kind of overreacting to that? Because he's somebody that I'm just not getting to on this slate.
Yeah, I think that it's totally reasonable to have concerns about Marcus Smart. He's not that good of a player. I don't know. If you say he's not that good,
that's
Boston
the correct
fans,
take. That's the correct take.
Boston
he's not
fans
that
just
good.
Absolutely just get up in your mentions like the guy is the second coming of Larry Bird.
See, that's weird because the Boston fans I know absolutely hate this guy because they feel like he's eating up money that could be used elsewhere. And he also has this crazy inclination that he's the best player on the floor in crunch time sometimes.
What I always hear is what he provides to a team you can't measure in the box.
Oh my God. See, I'm so over that. Intangibles, Matt LaMarca.
But going back to fantasy, he has been okay recently, 1.02 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. I just worry about the playing time with Derek White. Prior to that 39-minute game, he had played 27.5, 24.5, 25.5. So now, granted, the Celtics have played in a lot of blowouts recently, but I still think 39 minutes is a pretty clear outlier. Even if this game stays competitive, I think his best, case scenario is probably around like 34 minutes.
God, we got EMAC in the chat too. Everybody hanging out. 774 of you already talking basketball on Super Bowl Sunday. Oh, it doesn't get better than that.
Well, what else are they going to do? They're going to watch the 9 hours of pregame coverage that's on TV. Just absolute garbage, dog crap programming.
Yeah, it's not great. Like the same thing that's been covered for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Oh, speaking of that, we have lots of shows coming up later in the afternoon that you should check out here at awesemo.com on the Awesemo YouTube channel. That would be great for everybody involved. I don't know, like the Awesemo betting show. That seems more intriguing than the Fox pregame or I guess it's on NBC, right? NBC pregame. Chris Collinsworth excited for that call. Awesemo betting show. I'm never getting hired by NBC or anywhere else. NFL first look. Here we go. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time for that. That's going to be Josh Adam and Neil Orfield. That's going to be a fun trio. You're going to want to check that out. NFL Deeper Dive 4:33. That is going to be Lofty, Ben, and Alex Baker, best DFS player on planet Earth. And then NFL Live before a lock. We've got myself, Matt Savoca, and Matt Kajewski, my three Matts. Just like always on Sundays, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Let me get on that show too. Let's go quad Matts.
I will literally just never, I will not get through it. I promise you. I can't get through streams already. Trust me, it's not good. So let's not do that. But hey, Jordan Klein, he's working overtime, baby. He's covering every single one of those. Shout out Jordan Klein. Producer Cam, hello. I don't think he has it set up today because it's just an hour and he doesn't really want the attention. Looks sun's out, guns out, though. It is hot out here in LA. Let's keep it rolling, my friends. We've got all the major talking points that we've talked about here for guard. Let's talk value, where it gets a little bit dicey if you're trying to roster the likes of a Patrick Beverly here, who has been decent enough from a fantasy standpoint over the course of this season. But 4,900 here for him, getting a lot of attention at 32.5%. You could go to a Derek White for 22% there at 5,500. I'm more inclined to maybe do that on DK. You could take the dart of Lance Stevenson, 3,700. I'm going to kind of put all these guys into a bucket for you. Who are your favorite guards to be paying down for on this slate?
So, not necessarily pay down options, but they're kind of in the same tier. I think we have to throw Chris Duarte and Buddy Hield for the Pacers also into that mix at 57 and 5,600. Lots of minutes available for the Pacers and two guys that are scoring the ball well. So Buddy Hield, my favorite of the two, just because I think the guy has been given new life with the Pacers and he's just going to be chucking. So shout out Buddy Hield. I like 5,600 on him. I think Derek White is very interesting for tournaments. Not really sure what his role is going to be like for this Celtics team in this game, but definitely willing to take a shot on him. Patrick Beverly has been crushing basically all season at this price tag, so I'm cool with that. The guy that I really can't get behind is Lance. And he is grading out favorably in our models. Our boom bust projections. He's got one of the most positive leverage ratings at guard, but I just don't see the minutes upside for him right now that the Pacers have made these moves. I just don't see where Lance gets on the court all that much. He played less than 13 minutes in their last game. I think he probably plays maybe a couple more minutes today, but I don't think that gives him enough ceiling for me.
I think it's fascinating because, again, it's a 2-game slate. You have to be willing to find some upside here. And the nice thing about Lance Stevenson is no matter how many minutes he plays, he's going to come out and chuck. Because we have literally 5 games in a row where he's attempted 6+ field goal attempts. He's only played over 16 minutes once in those 5 games. So there's an opportunity for him at 3,700. He's cheap. He's one of the guys on the value end. Again, this is just kind of the slate that it is, that I'm more inclined to be taking shots on. Jalen Smith we'll talk about next because I have my concerns going through Popcorn Machine, exactly what is going to go on with this Indiana rotation. Lots of interesting things that we looked at from last game, but it's a 1-game sample size, and I don't want to completely go overreacting to everything that we saw there. But I think 3,700 Lance Stevenson, just from a perspective where he could provide some upside, he's sub 20%. I think it checks enough boxes where I'm willing to take some of those shots. Over on DK, once again, if I were playing more lineups there, over on FanDuel, less inclined to have to do that because of softer pricing. We do have some really expensive guards, to get to Young, Halliburton, Russell. But with Anthony Edwards price tag, with some of these Indiana pieces, I don't think like in the mid-range at forward, we don't have to go as nuts playing Lance Stevenson or something of that sort. Anything else that you want to discuss here from guard? Anybody that's like a really deep flyer that you would like to discuss? Because we'll keep it moving along. Otherwise, people have things to do.
I think kind of in the same vein of a Lance Stevenson play, but somebody that will check in with even lower ownership. I'm fine with a sprinkling of DeLone Wright at 3,300. Mm-hmm. He's somebody that's playing routinely like 20-ish minutes. And he's 3,300. He's had at least 18 and change in 3 of his past 4. If he does that at 3,300 at 4% ownership, I think that's somebody to have a little bit of exposure to.
It's okay. We're having fun here this morning. We're all having fun. Smash the like button. That goes a long way for us here. Delon Wright, like the shout out. Once again, it's a 2-game slate. Pete brings up something great that I'd like to discuss here because, this is a 2-game strategy type session that we can do here too. He just asked 2-gamer strategy, max players you'll play from one team or game.
From a game, seven, like
on DK.
Yeah, I'll go full game stack if I need to. I mean, you want some exposure to both games, but you can definitely be way more overloaded on one. Max players for team, I usually like to keep it at around 4. On a 2-game slate, maybe you can get to 5, but to win a tournament, you're going to need to grab as much value as possible from as many sources as possible. And usually that means getting exposure to, if not every team, almost every team, right? So by going with 5 players from one team, I think you might be minimizing your upside with the other teams on the slate. So for me, it's kind of capped at 4, but maybe you go with 5 if you think a team like the Pacers, for example, today, you can probably get away with 5. They're in our projections. The 5 best value plays on DraftKings are all grading out as Pacers. So maybe you want to make an exception for that, but I still think in general 4 is a decent rule.
I love getting to 5 players. So the right answer. Oh, we just got news. Malcolm Brogdon unlikely to play Sunday. Don't have to change anything. Thank God. But what I look at is everything is slate dependent. Like if there were a 205 slate, like if this were Miami and Atlanta playing today, and then you had Minnesota and Indiana, I think most people would be inclined to game stack just naturally. It would be something that would happen organically, unless everything was priced up for the pace and the situation. I bet most lineups would be getting to 6 or 7 players from that late game. Or, if there was extreme value, because once again, we price ownership. So many parts of what goes into DFS, are things that are just, we're talking off the top of our head. But looking at a 237.5 total, there's no problem you would have getting to 4 or 5 Pacers, maybe 3 Timberwolves on the other side. And then, I'm talking FanDuel purposes, having 1 player from Atlanta and Boston. Once again, you can only play 4 players from each team. If that game goes to overtime, bang, you're set. But even still, like for me, if Atlanta and Boston shoots out, there's some stackability that would exist there. Play a lot of the studs together and have it be that function that way. But I think naturally on this slate, because of the Indiana value that exists, especially now that we got official word that Brogdon's going to be out here, guys like Hield, Duarte, I think they're a little bit more secure with their minutes. You're all set to stack it up. So great question. Wanted to be discussing it. 2 super chats. We're going to do a rate and we're going to move on with our day. Brody Mullinger, do you guys like Trae Young over 8.5 assists? I will tell you right now what I have him projected for, because that seems about right. What do you think about that?
I think you should first off head over to Odd Shopper.
It's a great
check
idea.
out what we have Trae Young projected for over there. That's going to give you what Alex thinks about Trae Young assists, which is much more value than what I think about it.
Thank you for not including me in that. No, I was just kidding.
I would take the under on 8.5 because again, it's just a bad game environment for Trae Young. The Celtics just not a good team. And I also think this number is a little bit inflated following, 4 straight double-digit assist games for Trae.
It just seems a pretty efficient line to me. I'm trying to find here quick for you, Atlanta. So we go to Atlanta here on Odd Shopper. We take a look, Trae Young, that's rebounds, points. We're looking for Trae Young assists. We have a projected for 8.4. Do not bet that prop. Do not bet that prop. It is like the most efficient thing I've ever seen in my life. That's 0.1 away. You could bet any other prop other than that one. But best of luck if you do want to play it. Thank you for the super chat as well. We're trying to be helpful, and that's hopefully helpful. Charles, $2. Would you go with Beasley as value, DK, or Brissett? We will be talking about Brissett. Brissett is an absolute smash for me today.
Yeah, you definitely have to like you some Brissett. Beasley has been really good on a per minute basis recently. I mean, he has been crushing basically like a fantasy point per minute here of late. He just never plays as much as I think he's going to. The minutes are pretty hard capped at around like 22, unless you have a slate with a ton of injury. So I think you can use Beasley, but I would have to give the edge to Brissett.
Every time I hear Beasley, I hear Ron Weasley. That's for Jordan Klein. I'm trying to get him involved and get him excited about this show. Let's go,
You're
my
a
friend.
wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. It's not Leviosa. It's Leviosa.
Reverse that.
It is the other way around. If you are a New York resident, sports betting is now live in your state. You need to check it out. Welcome to sports betting. It's a lot of fun. Please enjoy. I hope California gets its you-know-what together. That would be great. So many lucrative offers that are available for Super Bowl Sunday, and we have so many things to help you out with that. In the link of the video description below here, Alex Baker reveals the secrets behind making bank on sportsbook bonus offers. Legal in your state, legal in New York, legal in all these other states that have sports betting all set up for mobile wagering, and the ways you should be taking advantage of them. So go check that out and start betting today. This seems like a good day to do it. Matt LaMarca, I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm sure you have something. I'm sure you have something for me. What is your favorite Super Bowl prop of the day?
I took the over on Sony Michel carries. How does that sound? That's not what you were expecting, were you?
I did not. I bet the same thing, 4.5.
I'm a donkey, so I got it at 5.5.
I got it at 4.5. And I bet the under 16.5 for the acres.
That makes sense to me too. I mean,
2 weeks ago,
obviously some correlation between the two, but I think it's going a little bit unnoticed how much Sony Michel played last week.
57%, if I do recall. It's almost like I've done research on it.
Yeah.
You guys should check out all of the NFL product we have coming. It's going to be a blast today. And again, just cue up Cam Akers, 85% of the backfield with two guys behind him now. This ought to be fascinating. But
Sony Michel, healthy scratch.
Yep. We're going back to basketball. We've got 32 minutes to cover two games here. I bet we can do it. To the forward spot we go, my friend. We're going to stay basketball here. We're not going to go there. Jason Tatum, 9,600 here. He's kind of your primary spend up. He's really your only other spend up besides his teammate, Jaylen Brown, both of them on DraftKings pulling 43% and 38% ownership respectively. It's basically a pick 'em here. Now, whenever it's a pick 'em between the two, I tend to function and roster a lot of Jason Tatum, but I will say it has not been fun to roster Jason Tatum of late. With Derek White in the picture, with Marcus Smart starting to come on his own, Jaylen Brown pulling up a ton of usage, even though he hasn't really had a ton of usage the last two games, 26% and 22.4% respectively. Who do you prioritize between those two studs in the first game?
Yeah, it's close for me. I'm going to lean towards Tatum just because I think we're getting a bigger discount on his salary at the moment, right? This is a guy who last week was priced at 10,600 on DraftKings. Now, that price tag may have been too high to begin with, but still, we're talking about a guy whose salary has decreased by $1,000 over the last 4 games here. I think that makes him the more appealing buy low candidate. Both guys have questions. I don't think you need to play either, but of the two, Tatum gets the nod for me.
Okay, Tatum for me. That's always the guy that I end up siding with. So I'm going to be with you. I think Tatum on FanDuel going to be the guy that I'm prioritizing a little more. He's 10K, 8,600. Gigantic gap between the two.
Would you agree with this? Anthony Edwards over both.
Yes. I have 70% Anthony Edwards. I'm playing 10 lineups on FanDuel today. Okay. Again, I have so much NFL stuff to focus on that it's just painful to try to do any more than that. But of course, I'm playing a lot over at Yahoo too. We're going to be talking about that. Everyone wins baller 4K to first. It's 600 entries away from filling. That's 30 minutes away here right now from lock. You guys should go check that out here too. At the top of the pricing there, Jason Tatum's $40, Anthony Edwards $30. There's enough disparity there where I think I'm still going to be siding with Jason Tatum there, but everywhere else, it seems like it's not that big of a gap where, a little bit different with the pricing floors that exist there. I'm looking at rostering a lot of Anthony Edwards today on FanDuel. No doubt about it. Let's keep it going because people want me to talk basketball. So we're going to do that. John Collins is out here for Atlanta. That's going to make things really fascinating for this early game. And Now with no Daniel Tice there for Boston, I think it's fascinating there as well. But I want to start with the Atlanta side here because this might be a spot. If you're looking to roster just a couple guys from this early game, this might be the range where somebody emerges. And I'm looking at Bogdanovich, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, Danilo Gallinari. Those are all four pretty viable pieces, all projected to play over 26 minutes. I think DeAndre Hunter's my favorite on DraftKings at 4,700 amongst all of them. Simply a little bit cheaper, less of an opportunity cost, although Bogdanovich, 5,200, might be the more high upside option. But on a 2-game slate, I'm just kind of looking for the guy that can fit into the pieces of the puzzle. And I think DeAndre Hunter does that a little bit better for me. Who's your favorite of these forwards from Atlanta?
Yeah, I would say that Bogdanovich is my least favorite of the group. Just from the sole fact that he's going to carry the most ownership of this group.
Correct.
Right. And he is coming off of a huge game, but that honestly makes me less inclined to go back to him. So I would rather lean towards the Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, and Danilo Gallinari side. I agree with you that Hunter is the most logical fit in place of like a John Collins. Like, I think he benefits the most from John Collins being out. But I'm definitely not sleeping on Gallo and Huerter. Both of those guys have positive leverage scores today. Those two options are projected for significantly less ownership. Huerter right now, 16.5% on DraftKings. Gallo is at 12.3%. I really like using either one of those two guys if I'm looking to differentiate some chalkier lineups.
Oh, man. So Terry Taylor is available to play here with his illness today as well. I think I had him in, so that is good, I suppose. I don't have to change anything there, but maybe makes a little bit of a less intriguing dart to be taking on a Lance Stevenson or Jalen Smith. I don't even want to have that conversation yet. I will say also, would you agree with me on this? If this were like a 4 or a 5 game slate, would Bogdanovich be your favorite of the 4?
No, I mean, I don't think so.
Okay.
Right. Like,
I think he would be mine just because I think he would have the most upside, but I don't really care about upside on a slate like this. Like, which sounds weird amongst the 4 of them. I'm just looking for the guy that can put up maybe 30 there. And I feel like DeAndre Hunter is a guy that I'm just going to be leaning on a little bit more.
It's definitely fair. It feels like he has more upside, but I think that's kind of an illusion because he's coming off that big game, right?
True. Okay.
If you go off the boom bust tool, his optimal lineup rate is 14.7%. You've got Huerter is at 21%. Gallo is at 14%. And DeAndre Hunter is at 22.5%. So he is the lowest of that group. Which again, to me, that's just more reason to not play him.
Okay, that's fair. Let's go over and carve up some of these Indiana pieces. This is going to be the most important talking point I think we have on the entire show. On DraftKings, O'Shea Brissett pulling 45.4% currently. Chris Duarte, 5,700, 41.8%. Buddy Hield, 5,600. And Jalen Smith coming off a game where his rotations made no sense whatsoever, but now there's no Isaiah Jackson. And my guess is they don't want to play Tristan Thompson as much as what they played him last game. They ended up playing him 15 minutes. He got some weird wonky rotations. That game against Cleveland was pretty competitive actually, but I don't think Tristan Thompson is going to be a meaningful part of this rotation going forward. So Jalen Smith has to get some attention there, and he's 3,200. I have a tough time imagining that O'Shea Brissett isn't a just lock and load play at 4,500. So long as he's starting, which I think we all expect him to be here. Buddy Hield, serviceable, not beyond serviceable, different complete role there. 40 minutes coming off of, I don't know the last time he played 40 minutes with Sacramento. I'm guessing years ago. I'm telling you right now, those are all guys that are unavoidable pieces of chalk here on this slate. Is there any kind of an argument you could say to be lower on one of them?
The guy that I would say that I would make the argument for is Brissett. Just because the Pacers kind of like quietly have a lot of big guys, right? Like Goga disappeared. He played 10 minutes in their last game. I don't know why they all of a sudden hate Goga.
He got hit in the face.
Okay. So do we expect a bounce back from him today?
I don't know. Again, this is where it's very high variance. I think it's tough. Like, and again, I was kind of saving some of that for the center spot, but like O'Shea Brissett, I feel pretty confident. He played 38 minutes. He's really the only guy. So when you're talking about like the four, when we're talking about guys playing the four here, going up against Jared Vanderbilt, the likenings there, Jaden McDaniels, it's an interesting situation and matchup here for a lot of these Indiana pieces. Isaiah Jackson out is very important to me. 12 minutes, didn't play in the second half there with his injury with that ankle again. Jalen Smith, I think, can kind of come in and maybe pick up more minutes, but I doubt he pulls anything away from O'Shea Brissett. It's one of the younger guys. They're just going to continue to give him run, I think, going forward. Lance Stevenson, more of an insurance policy. You can go out and chuck, which is the reason that I kind of said I liked playing him a little bit. But like O'Shea Brissett, I think, is for me at 4,500 on DraftKings, the best piece of value, bar none, on this slate.
Okay, that's fair. I will take the Jalen Smith side of things.
Okay.
I think given the price differential, I don't have them projected for like all that many different minutes, right? I think I have Brissett at around 30 and Jalen Smith in the low 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And Smith has been the better per minute guy this year. So I think he can make up the difference in the minutes when you factor in the cost expectation. So I would rather play Jalen Smith, especially with the ownership difference that I'm getting. O'Shea Brissett going to be 45%. We have Jalen Smith at 27%. That's kind of how I see things. I do not expect another 38-minute performance from O'Shea. Don't call me Jackson Brissett.
Sorry, Mr. Jackson. I am for real. Loved it. 3. Put it up. Put it up in the corner. 3. We got a super chat. Sean, is Jalen Smith a good pick? Sorry if I missed it. No, we were just talking about him. That's lovely. I got to say, going to popcornmachine.net and taking a look at what we're looking at from Jalen Smith's rotations last game, one of the weirder things I've seen in a long time now. Isaiah Jackson got hurt. They brought him back in to close the half. But then he played like a 6-minute stint starting at the 1:58 mark of the third quarter. Ended up coming off the floor at the 8-minute mark. They brought back in Tristan Thompson. And then Jalen Smith closed the last minute and 28 when they were pretty much going to lose that basketball game. Now, again, I don't think Tristan Thompson is a guy that they brought in to be a long-term solution there. I think that was because of Isaiah Jackson being hurt, Jalen Smith being acquired there. And I will say, Jalen Smith played on the floor with Tristan Thompson at times. I think Goga's going to get a majority of the setter minutes. We're going to get there, and it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but I'm looking at a guy like Jalen Smith as an all right piece of value. He's too cheap not to be involved in some of your builds. Now, if I'm making one, I bet I avoid him. But if I'm making 5, 10 lineups on DK, 3,200 is just doing a lot for you. That's it. That's the conversation. Anything else from?
I think we've said all that needs to be said.
Again, it's a 2-game slate. You can play a lot of these guys. Well, we've got to talk Al Horford, Big Al.
Big Al. They used to do that at the Garden when Al Harrington made a bucket. Oh no, you know what? I'm getting it confused.
Okay.
Al Jefferson was Big Al.
Okay. For me, whenever I think of make a bucket, like, because there's always that one player that always sticks out in your head when you go to the game live. There's no question that it's DeAndre Jordan, because every time he would score a bucket with the Clippers, it was go DJ. That's my DJ. Go DJ. And it was just like, you could hear it just playing in your nightmares. It was the worst, but also must be nice to play with Chris Paul back in your prime. That had to be enjoyable.
Nice to play with him now.
Al Horford. Yeah, no kidding. Al Horford. Are we going to be rostering this cat? You do. Okay. I had a feeling you did. He's sub 20%. So I think at 5,800 on DK, there's a case to be made for him.
You made fun of me for liking Al Horford on the last show that we
sure did. And he absolutely obliterated.
So I'm going to keep riding him. He's playing like 30 minutes a night again for the Celtics, and he is capable of being over a fantasy point per minute. The price tag is a little bit less appealing at 5,800 than it was earlier in the week when he was more in the low 5K range, but I still think under 6K, Al Horford is a completely fine option.
Yeah, he's just fine. Sub 20%. There's not many guys that have that kind of upside. Now, FanDuel 6,800, I'm going to shy away a little bit. Going to be something that I don't do as much, but looking at him there over on the old DraftKings.com, definitely an unavoidable piece there. We talked Atlanta's forwards. We talked Boston's forwards. We talked Indiana forwards. Let's finish it out with this one. I'm expecting that once again, we're going to get Jared Vanderbilt starting there. Jared Vanderbilt, a guy that I don't really like because it always feels like the public likes him a lot more, but now he's sub 20%. He's 4,800. He kind of gives you a direct pivot off of O'Shea Brissett if you're trying to get different in one lineup, $100 more. Anybody that you really want to be discussing, especially now that we got word that Anthony Edwards will play here on Sunday. Good to get that so early here, 19 minutes before lock. Anything from the Minnesota forward side?
I wish we had gotten it later, to be honest.
Samesies.
The Minnesota forwards don't really do very much for me. If you are going to play one of these guys, it's going to be Jared Vanderbilt. And I suppose 4,800 is a pretty good price tag for him. He's been as high as like 6K at times this year. So the only question is the minutes, right? The minutes have been very inconsistent. He had 34 minutes 2 games ago, but he's been under 25 quite a bit. He's even been under 20 in certain spots. So I think he's a fine play, at this price tag, but he's not somebody that I'm rushing to get into my lineups.
I just have to bring this up because it's insane. Now, Eric likes Vandy. No, I'm saying that he's generally not somebody that I like. I'm a Timberwolves fan. I like Jared Vanderbilt as a real life basketball player. Fantasy perspective, the guy ends up being a little bit overowned on most slates. It seems like this 2-gamer, for whatever reason, he's not garnering as much attention. Well, I guess that makes sense when you have O'Shea Brissett there at 4,500, just a lot cheaper there. $300 difference, I suppose, would be the correct number there. So Jared Vanderbilt, just fine for me. The guy I don't like, David Porter, is the guy that you brought up, Terry Taylor. He's 5K on DraftKings. He's 5,900 on FanDuel. I could make 1,000 lineups and I wouldn't play him once.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I could make 1,000 lineups and I would not play him once.
That's a lot of lineups for 2 games.
How many minutes do you have him projected for?
If there's a spot where he's going to get, like, he's a center, right? He's essentially a center at 6'4".
Yeah.
And crazy. The one position where the Pacers have like 5 options today is center.
That's correct.
So I don't think you need to necessarily go with Terry Taylor. He's not somebody that I have in any of my lineups. I don't have 1,000 of them, but he's not in any of my lineups currently.
David Porter just said, now I'm off him. Okay, great. That was a good talk. I'm glad we had that. Another thing that you shouldn't be off of is Yahoo Fantasy. You should be firing that up at will because we have the Everyone Wins Baller 4K to first right now. Not quite full yet, 500 spots away. You want to go play in that because best per dollar, 5.3% management fee, 5.3%. It is just fantastic in terms of rate compared to the big sites. That's literally 10% less that you're looking at there. Plus, with 1 free month of Awesemo Plus, you get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you sign up as a new user, deposit $10 or more, and play in any of the great paid contests. And I don't know, seems like there's something going on in the NFL you might want to partake in today, like the $20, $1 million big game baller, 150K to first, with the lowest management fee you're looking at, period, on any of the major sites. 10% management fee. Makes it so easy to plug and play lineups over there. So it's a little different salary structure. You have Joe Burrow more expensive than Matt Stafford. Kind of adds a nice caveat to some of the other rosterships you're looking at on other sites as well. You have the $1 playmakers, 1K to first. That's got a 12% management fee. Again, you're talking 4 or 5% less rate than the major sites. And you get that 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. What was that?
More. If you're playing a $1 contest on DraftKings and FanDuel, the rake is probably approaching 20%.
Yeah, it's like around 17 is kind of the going rate for most of it. So you're 100% correct. More. I will go with that. That's why Yahoo's the best to go play. Plus, every single sport that we offer behind the paywall will be available to you as a new user. That is what you get with your 1 month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo, but do it through this promotion with Yahoo, the best you will ever find in the history of our company. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship of the NBA Live Before Lock show, the NFL Live Before Lock show is coming up, and so many other programs that we have going on this lovely, lovely YouTube channel that you guys love. While I'm talking about loving, hit that like button because you love us. I'm done saying love. Let's go to center, top end. There's a guy named Karl Anthony Towns. He's good at basketball. Do you want to roster him today?
Not really. I'll have some of him in this spot, but I think Karl Anthony Towns still a little bit overpriced at 9,700. He's been Why? Because he scored 55 in his last game?
Because it's a 2-game slate and he's the best play, raw points, period, end of story.
I will I prefer the guards.
I love you. Guards. This is good television or streaming or whatever you want to call it.
Plus, I like some of the other options at center. You can play both Jalen Smith or O'Shea Brissett at center. You could play Al Horford at center. There are some other guys we'll talk about. I'll take Robert Williams at 7,700 before Karl Anthony Towns at 9,700.
Wow. I will not. I have a lot of Karl Anthony Towns. He's 27.5% on FanDuel. He's lower rostered than Robert Williams, who, again, power forward center eligibility. That makes it a little bit easier. But Clint Capella is 6,100. This guy, if he can't succeed in this spot, I don't know what to do with Clint Capella going forward. It is an absolute disaster. And we're looking at the starting lineup: Young, Herter, Hunter, Gallinari, and Capella here. In the absence of John Collins here, we are looking at a different player in Clint Capella here, a 1.18 DraftKings points per minute player on the season. It's always a minutes thing with him lately. He's been playing low 20s minutes here. It doesn't seem like they want to extend him. Okongwu is there. He can come in and play and function there to a certain extent. We have him projected for 20 minutes. Capella only 24 and a half. What do you do with Clint Capella in this spot? Because he's the guy that I want to be firing up at will, and I'm just getting a little trigger shy.
What you do is you go over to Cruncher and you put in a rule that says if a lineup includes Clint Capella, don't put in Onyeka Okongwu, and vice versa.
It's great.
And then you make sure that one of these Hawks centers is in 85% of your lineups.
Yep.
One of these two guys is going to give us great value at their price tags.
Yes.
I am with you that I lean towards Capella. I mean, we know the upside that this guy has on a per minute basis. He's given us, 60 DraftKings points games before when he plays 30 minutes. The question is the minutes. Will they be there? I think that him and Okongwu split them pretty evenly. So I want exposure to both. I will be overweight on both. And I'm expecting that to pay off for one of the two of them.
Yeah. See, I mean, for me, looking at Cat, I mean, I have him projected for 10 more fantasy points than I have Robert Williams. Robert Williams, I can play a power forward. So that's kind of what I'm planning on doing on FanDuel quite a bit. On DK, different conversation. So you have to be aware of the differences between the sites. 9,700, just functionally, he's going to be higher owned over there. So on FanDuel, because he's lower rostered, I'm getting to a little bit more. But my God, Clint Capella is 5,100 on DK. I got to be preferring that even to Okongwu, 3,600. Although Okongwu, one quick way, there's a very easy path for Okongwu to go nuts here in this spot. And that's Clint Capella gets in foul trouble or just isn't as functional because he hasn't played over 21 minutes in the last 4 here alongside Collins. But there's some room for either one of them to go nuts. It could happen either way. I wouldn't be surprised. I think, because I'm playing one lineup, I'm rostering Capella now over here. Well, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to on DK. I'm going to get to a little bit more on FanDuel. 6,100 there. Okongwu, 4,300. You have to pick center only for both of them there. That's an uncomfortable thing, but 4,300 could open up a lot if he ends up being somewhat usable here in this spot. I don't think Tristan Thompson is a guy we need to be worried about on this slate. Do you?
No.
Cool.
There's only one person in the world that should worry about Tristan Thompson. And that's Khloe Kardashian.
I knew you were going to say that. It's so true. He's such a problem child. Oh, I love it. Oh, man. Do you have any opinions on the Kardashians? That would take us away from basketball, too.
Big fan of what they've done. Think about it. The hard work that
hard work pays off.
Yeah. They're self-made billionaires.
Self-made. No help whatsoever.
You think? What do you think? Kim Kardashian didn't earn her spotlight?
Oh, she earned it.
She earned it.
Look at Jordan Klein.
Nobody would have cared about them if not for a little Kim K superstar.
I mean, the thing is, Kim Kardashian, she took Paris Hilton and said, "This is how you actually do it, my friend." That was incredible to think of how gigantic Paris Hilton was for us back in the day. And then she just she took the slingshot and she just went way over Paris Hilton. All right, let's keep it riding. Anything else at center here? Goga Batadze. Oh, I said I was going to talk about this guy. He got hit in the face last game and nobody reported it. Greg and I were watching that game on Live Before Lock and trying to talk people through it where, it was a bad break. He ended up playing 10 minutes there. I think he plays a lot more than 10 minutes. Now, the question is with some of these other front court guys who, I don't like Terry Taylor. He's just completely ridiculously priced, but he exists. Tristan Thompson, he exists. Jalen Smith is a guy that they went out and acquired and actually maybe want to give a shot at something. He exists. 3,200, my favorite of the grouping here. But Goga Batadze, 4,900 over on DK. He's 5K over on FanDuel. I want to be taking the shots on FanDuel. I really, really do. He's my second highest owned center over there behind Cat. What are you doing with him today?
I have a little bit. I imagine that I'm pretty in line with the field at 15.2% ownership. The problem, again, like I said, is I have nearly 100% ownership to the Atlanta center, whichever one is in whichever lineup.
Yep.
Just looking at the minute projections that we have for the Pacers, we have Brissett at around 30 minutes, 29.4 to be exact. Batadze's at 23. Jalen Smith at 21.5, and Tristan Thompson at 7. That all seems pretty reasonable to me.
EMAC, are you real? You can't be real. EMAC 2024. If he didn't get your vote today, he didn't get your vote ever. Give the like button for our boy EMAC in the chat. I hit it first. Great song by Ray J. Do you know it, Matt LaMarca?
I don't. I got to say, I'm only familiar with one thing about Ray J.
And you were worried about this show not being enjoyable and not getting up to time. We're 8 minutes away, and I could go for another hour with this man over here, Matt LaMarca, giving you guys the goods here. We've covered every single position. Why don't you guys fire up some questions? We've got 1,000. 8 minutes is enough for us answering your questions to actually matter to your lineups here. So we want to be able to help you out. Again, Goga Batadze, FanDuel. I might be getting to like 30%. Ooh, I'm getting fancy here today. This is fun. This is Kendi. We're having fun. If you name that, well, everybody knows Austin Powers. Let's be serious. Get those questions in, everybody. I also took Trae Young in the over of 8.5 assists. I'm just staying clear away from that one. It is way too efficient for me. Let's see. I hit it first. Let's see. No, I can't hear the Kardashians. Y'all like Derek White? No, not today. I like Derek White as a basketball player. I do not like him for fantasy today.
I have a smidgen.
You have a smidgen? How much is a smidgen?
Like 10%.
Okay, that's a smidgen. That's like exactly a smidgen.
Thank you.
You weren't kidding. You do have a smidgen. Oh, that sounded weird. Thoughts on Hawks starters? We talked about them there a second ago. Let me just pull that back up here as we're going. There was another hole in one. I need to know who hit that. Who hit the hole in one?
At 17 again?
Yeah, at 16.
Right, sorry.
Carlos Ortiz. Showdown, go. Let's go. He's one of the guys. You got to take some shots on some lower owned dudes in Showdown because everybody who's like 10 under or better is like 20% plus owned every single week. So you have to take those shots. Let's see. Who is it here? Hawk starters: Young, Herter, Hunter, Gallinari, Capella. Gallo starting is kind of intriguing.
Gallo starting is very intriguing to me. I love it.
Yeah. So we were talking about that beforehand. I said Hunter, right? Yeah, good.
You
Hunter,
said Hunter.
Gallinari. Good. Just making sure. Just double checking my lineups here. I'm probably with you now where I think Bogdanovich.
Oh no, you picked Hunter. Hunter is not starting.
Hunter is starting. Hunter
I see
is
Herter.
Young, Herter, Hunter, Gallinari, Capella.
So no Bogdanovich.
No Bogdanovich, which is beautiful.
Interesting. That's not what I am seeing.
Oh,
I will trust you.
I'm looking at Schmunder Schmog.
See, I was blocked by Schmunder Schmog.
Schmunder Schmog. It's beautiful.
So I don't have access to Schmunder Schmog.
Thoughts on Lou Williams Showdown at 1K so I can fit Brown, Tatum, and Trey? I'm not looking at Showdown, but I can promise you 1K is 1K. And if it functionally helps out the rest of your lineup and you have Trey Young or Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in the top spots, fire up Lou Williams because I bet he takes the floor at some point.
Yeah. Lou Williams 1K. Sure. Fine play.
Glenn Smith, Delon Wright worth anything off the bench? I believe you brought him up earlier as somebody that is a little bit more contrarian. He's 3,300 over on DraftKings.com, playing around 19, 20 minutes a game here. I think 19 minutes is just fine to be taking some shots on him.
He's another smidgen player for me.
Smidgen. That just makes me think Schmishmortian, the Schmishmortian clinic from what is that?
We're grown-ups. We can say the word.
What? No, that's literally the quote. It's Jonah Hill.
And I was literally finishing the quote, Eric.
I'm such a failure lately. It's unbelievable. Knocked Up. Thank you for my wife reminding me of the movie name. That was weird. She's listening through the door. What in the world? 4 minutes to go here. My wife is favorite Ray J movie. I like you guys so much. Hit the like button. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Ryan Archie Diacono, Villanova's finest, getting signed by the Knicks because they need anything. Careful what you say, Eric. Yeah, no kidding. FanDuel, Young Capella or Cat Beverly from Darren Unger?
I don't love Trae Young, but I'm going to lean that side. I think it has a bit more upside for me.
I got to get more Gallo quick. Let's do this. We've got 4 minutes left to go. Anything else that you really want to cover with your lineups? Anybody who are your highest owned players on this slate today?
Yeah. So my highest owned players are going to be Tyrese Halliburton. It's going to be Anthony Edwards. A lot of Pacers, Chris Duarte, okay. Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, the Hawks centers. I'm kind of avoiding the tippity top of the pricing spectrum, right? I have very little Trae Young, very little Karl Towns, and minimal of the Celtics guys. So I guess I'm going with a more of a balanced construction today.
That does sound very, very balanced of you. You live a balanced life, Matt LaMarca.
If there's one thing I know, it's balance.
Like how I don't have it after a couple of beers and walking home from the bar.
Oh, that's going to be great today. Oh, this is the first time I haven't had any work. I'm going to have 18 hours off. It's going to be great.
What? What are you going to do with yourself?
A couple bevies, some nice Super Bowl snacks.
That sounds nice.
And I'm just going to bet on everything possible.
Yeah, I always say that I'm not going to bet as much as normal, but then that just never happens. It doesn't happen. I'm looking for my desktop so I can upload my CSV. Look, I just did it. Look at this. Wife cam. No, not wife cam. Not wife cam. I've said enough bad things, done enough bad things. We just need no wife cam. I don't need to be scolded in person here today. That's not something that I'm looking for. Embarrassing. Nails on a chalkboard. Icky, gross, hard to watch. What are we talking about? Cut the crap, guys. Need puppy bowl picks. My dog Duke is going to win the puppy bowl. There's no doubt about it.
I'm fading
top
Duke
locks.
Hard.
O'Shea Brissett on DraftKings. Who is your absolute stone cold lock on FanDuel? What'd you say?
I said I'm fading Duke. He's too soft.
Yeah.
I see that SoCal upbringing in him. Mm-hmm. You know, he don't have what it takes.
He literally just laid on the side of the road and was just like, I'm not walking anymore yesterday. It was pretty hot, though. It was a pretty hot day. I'm going to give him a break. He was just like, nope, I carried him 8 blocks. It was annoying, but he already knows he can get away with everything. It's a problem. We've got 1 minute left to go. FanDuel lock. Who's your FanDuel lock?
Anthony Edwards, 7,700.
That's my guy. I literally have 100% of him now. That is lovely. We have 1 minute to lock, guys. Everybody, you're going to want to check out all of this NFL content. Let me recap for you guys as you smash the like button, as you follow at Matt LaMarca over on the Twitters and at Eric Lindquist, if you would be so obliged. But we've got so much stuff here. Let me read it off. Let me count the ways. NFL, first look, where we got the betting show. That is starting up at noon, literally in 1 hour. You're going to want to check that out. We have the NFL first look at 12:30, NFL deeper dive at 1:30. Well, I'm saying my times, 4:33 p.m. Eastern time, NFL deeper dive, 5:33 p.m. Eastern time. That is NFL live before lock. I'll be on that with the Matt and Matt show. Can't wait to be hanging out with you guys for one more Sunday. But Matt LaMarca, any final words for the people?
Enjoy the day. Let's go Bengals. That's who I'm rooting for. Joey Burr, Money Mac. And let's have a good day. Let's have some fun.
Ed Jordan Klein, thank you so much to our guy over there doing a great job producing this lovely show that did not take any twists and turns whatsoever. I'm at Eric Lindquist. Go follow me. We'll see you guys later for some Super Bowl coverage.